You know those moments when you're just having an average day, you're just relaxing, browsing something, or talking to somebody, and then just a moment just attacks you out of nowhere. You remember something super embarrassing, and you're like, it is awful. What the hell is that? What's going on? Why does it happen? I think it's one of the most painful things that we feel that are not physical. And to explain it, it's best to think of our mind as an ocean, where memories and experiences are like stones that, just drop and we experience them and they go down to our memories, subconscious mind, and whatnot. But some experiences are not quite like stones. They're more like inflated balls that they might go in, but then they resurface. Even though we try to push them, they come back. And it's confusing. Why do they keep resurfacing? To go over that, I'm actually going to share the story of the last time I cringed so hard. So, I was a psychology student and I had a presentation. And the professor told me that at the end of the presentation, I will have to take questions. I went through the presentation. It was alright. It was fine. It was not too bad. I felt pretty good about it. And then it got to the question section. And literally the first student asked me a question that I didn't quite understand. But I'm like, okay, I'll answer it to the best of my abilities. And I answered the question and I asked him, I'm like, are you satisfied with this answer? And he's like, no, not quite. This is not exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm like, well, I think now I understand what you mean. And I gave another answer. And then I asked him, like, is that it? And he's like, not really. And I'm like, now I understand what you mean. And just as I was going to answer, the professor interrupted me and she was like, oh no, let him speak, let him explain. So the student explained his question. It was completely unrelated to my answers. And then the professor just explained it, and then I took other questions, moved on. And it didn't feel that bad, In the moment, adrenaline was high. It's like when you fall, you don't feel it. But after a while, you're like, damn, I really hurt my shoulder. I'm like, what the hell? That's exactly how it was. After a while, I'm like, damn, that was so bad. That was such an awful experience. Why does this kind of embarrassment physically hurt? Back in the day, being socially awkward literally meant that people will not cooperate with you. People will not want to interact with you that much, and that literally meant death. So we have this kind of reaction whenever we do something that is socially not quite right. And to me, I really think that the best strategy to deal with these memories is a very simple 3-step process. Now let's go back to the story that I told you and apply that strategy. First one is to actually just analyze objectively. Look back at it. What did I do wrong? What happened? Well, just go through the scenario and see where the emotion comes up. Now for me, in my story, the emotion actually comes up when I started saying, oh yeah, I know. And I actually didn't know. Every time I remember that, I'm like, fuck, why did I do that? I wish I did not say that. So I'm like, I identify it. That is the problem. That's step number 1. Then number 2, we analyze. Why is this bad? What is so socially wrong about this? And for me, it's actually that I was being a little bit pretentious. I pretended that I knew something when in fact I didn't. And everyone that was listening to me saw that. Awful, right? No one wants to be that guy. So that's step number 2. Step number 3 is, what should we do about it? How should we change our behavior in a way that stops that from happening ever again? And for me, it's actually pretty simple. It's just to not be pretentious, right? If I don't know something, I'll just say, hey, I have no idea. Can you please explain? And I learned that. And this conclusion is so important. And it's so sticky. I never forget this. Probably I'll be like 80 and I'll still remember the story. I'll still remember that lesson. And it's this identification that I saw the stove, I touched it, understood, okay, I touched it here, this is why it burnt. And if I do this, I will not touch that stove again. And when you do that, that inflated ball stops being so inflated and it becomes a normal stone and it starts to sink. Even when you remember it, you know me talking about it right now, I don't physically cringe or have like a bad reaction to it. I just talk about it as a story because my brain now doesn't see it as a threat anymore. I learned the lesson. I will not be pretentious anymore as much as possible. And I'm a better person socially. And to me, this is what the power of cringy moments is that if you take them and you apply those 3 steps that we talked about, you will, throughout life, hone your skills. You'll become more socially fluid. People will like talking to you more, whether in professional or personal settings. You'll just be more of a pro. And what a lot of people do, sadly, is that they just suppress. So instead of having one inflated ball, they have tons of them. And it's overwhelming to go through all of them. So the best approach is to just take them as they go. Right? Sitting, something comes up, you feel the cringe, start to get stabbed, and then you're like, okay, let me just take a step back, let's rewind, let's analyze what went wrong, where was the spot, why was it bad, what can I do to stop it? And just following this simple process, you'll start to deflate. And the funny thing is that with every deflation, you'll become more confident because you know that this bad thing is not going to happen to you anymore. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Now, of course, no one wants to go through these bad moments throughout their lives. Is there a better way? In this video here, I talk about how to be socially fluid using the experience of others and using something in psychology we call mirroring neurons. If you want to check it out, click here. I hope this video was helpful, and I'll see you soon.